Good morning, League fans. It is Monday, the 23rd of June, 2025, and an extremely warm day here in London where this program comes to you from. Now, I've got a packed hour planned ahead. I was away at the weekend. I went to the Warrington Huddersfield match at the Halliwell Jones Stadium, and there was plenty to come out of the visit. We did some interviews before and after the match, which I want to replay, but I want to replay them in some sort of context. So before we go ahead and I'll explain to you what that context is, we'll go through some results, shall we? Just for the record's sake. In the NRL at the weekend, Canberra 16, West Tigers 12, Penrith 28, the Warriors 18, Newcastle 26, Dolphins 20. It was a 1-point win to Melbourne over South Sydney, 25-24. And then moving on to the Sunday games, Brisbane at home to Cronulla, 34-28 to the home team there. Sydney Roosters 42, North Queensland 8. And Parramatta 36, Gold Coast 20. In Super League at the weekend, 48-0 on Thursday night. It was Hull KR over Castleford. And then it was St Helens 18, Leeds 4. Wakefield 16, Wigan 10. Big upset that. The match I went to, Huddersfield 24, Warrington 16. Lee 26, Catalans 12. And Hull FC 38, Salford 6. Now, birthdays today. Birthdays in rugby league. Gary Bridge, the old Tiger, 64 today. Happy birthday to Gary Bridge. Also played at the Roosters, of course. Tony Priddle, the big prop from St George and Paris Saint-Germain, 55 today. Happy birthday. He's still younger than me. Brandon Costin. Was formerly Brandon Pearson, the artist formerly known as, 53 today. Happy birthday to Brandon there. Andrew Willis, the West Star, the Western Suburbs Magpie, 52 today. They're getting younger. They're all younger than me now. Who else have we got here? Damien Cook, definitely younger than me. He's 34 today. I reckon we might have one more. Tristan Saylor from the St Helens. Now, how old is Tristan Saylor? 27 today. Stafford Tower, will throw him in as well from West Tigers. Happy 25th birthday to Stafford. So what I'm going to do is, there was a couple of things which were raised before Saturday's game around, firstly around Super League by Mick Gledhill, who is one of our commentators here on rugbyleague.com, about a meeting at Odsal this coming Thursday. So that's one thing that I put to the CEO of Warrington Wolves, Karl Fitzpatrick, on Saturday before kickoff. And then there were some other matters raised around Warrington and the position they find themselves in with, their coach, Sam Burgess, with the women's team who've been conceding big scores, and generally about the way the club is marketed. Is it a mixed message? Is it confusing to be both the Wire and the Wolves? Those things were raised on the 40-20, which is a show which we also carry here on rugbyleague.com. So what I want to do is I want to give you the context and then air the interview with Karl at the end of the hour. So we're going to start by hearing from a very news-making interview, which has nothing to do with any of that, which is Taane Milne, who was the subject of a eye-gouge complaint from Geordie Crowther on Saturday, and I grabbed Taane on the field at full time, so I want to replay that. And then Tom Burgess, who played his 350th game, his mother flew in from Australia, Julie Burgess. So a very short chat with him during after another break. Then we're going to listen to Mick and what he had to say about this coming Thursday. Then we're going to listen to the guys from 40-20 and what they had to say about Warrington. And then finally, we're going to listen for Karl Fitzpatrick at the bottom of the hour. So we have to find some short songs to play because there's a lot to squeeze in. So If you're listening on the podcast, I invite you. We are on Patreon, patreon.com/White Line Fever, if you want to support the show. And please, if you are listening on the podcast, make sure you subscribe. Get a podcast every time I do one. Okay, we'll take a break and we'll be back, firstly, with Taane Milne.
We've got Taane Milne here. Taane, what a win, eh? Second one of the year.
Yeah, mate. Awesome to get the win. We worked hard for the last 3 weeks at training, and it's paying off on the field. We knew it was coming, the win, so hopefully from now on, roll into Catalans, and then we'll custom fit after that. So yeah, we'll focus on Catalans this week. So
mentally, it must be hard not to get disheartened with some of those narrow defeats.
Yeah, obviously you seen last week we were pretty close to the premiers last year, and it just shows the the effort and the talent we have in our team to beat the best team. So we just got to build off this win, and I can't wait for next week, to be honest. Yeah.
Now I've got to ask you about just before half time. What happened?
I don't know what happened.
Well, there was an incident put on report, wasn't there?
Mate, maybe about an accident, but yeah, it's just footy, mate. Hopefully, I know how the feeling is off the field. I just said sorry to the bloke, and hopefully he's all right.
Yeah, and also with Ben Curry here at the end, so you got under their skin a little bit.
Oh, I just play footy, mate. That's how I do, and I wouldn't change a thing for it. I like to bring aggression to the field, and sometimes maybe go overboard, but I'm just happy with the win today, and that's the main focus. And I just try not to give away as much penalties as I do. So
nice talking to you. Congratulations. Enjoy the evening.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Appreciate
it, mate. Thanks. Tom, it's a landmark game, and your mum's here. Your brother's in the stands. Tell us about the day.
Yeah, mate. It's been nice to sort of reminisce through the week. I got my little boy here, but it's been nice, mate. Obviously I've been very fortunate to have a long career, and this is nice to celebrate it. But say through the week, it's not for the milestones, but it's been nice. Obviously, really nice to have my mum here as well, over from us, and my partner's here with my kids. So just happened to be playing against Sam's team, and obviously they're struggling. They're going through a bit of a patch after the final, but I'm sure they'll bounce back. But we really been working hard for that win, so we're really happy with that.
It's a lot of games, isn't it, you've played?
Starting to feel it now, mate. Yeah, but it's I'm still feeling good. I'm looking after myself. Alfie's keeping me fit, mate. Chasing around these little ones.
And mate, why'd you get that win today? Give us one reason you got that win today.
Oh, you know what? We've been working hard at training. We've been putting in better performances, and we had the confidence. We knew we could get a win if we did what we needed to do today. So I think that's sort of reward for all the work we've been putting in.
Congratulations on a massive day in your life.
Thanks, mate. Cheers, buddy.
Good on you too. Thanks.
Well, Thursday at Odsal, it is the final meeting where all rugby league clubs from every division of the pyramid will be meeting here at Odsal ahead of the July council meeting, and this will be the last chance for clubs to express their opinions, their thoughts on a number of proposals presented to them. As already we've mentioned for a number of weeks, perhaps months now, there is one proposal for a 14-team Super League, which would then see the Championship and League One merge into two divisions of 10. There would be an East Conference and a West Conference. I do know from speaking to the implementation committee that they are working hard on how that would all come together. You would certainly play everybody twice in your division, and then there would be cross East-West division games. So for instance, we'll use Batley. Batley, you would say, would be in the East, and it would be once every 2 years that they would host Widnes, host Oldham, host Swinton, host Rochdale at their home ground. They would play each other every season, but it would be on an alternate home and away basis. We do know that the Super League clubs are broadly on board with this proposal as things stand, and as I'm sure will happen in rugby league, we are probably, the moment the council papers are released, you will see the finer details of what is going to be on those papers and ultimately what the clubs are going to be voting on. There is a lot to discuss, a lot to digest, and it's very, very early. But on Thursday here at Odsal, it's almost like D-Day. If you say the council meeting is the be-all and end-all, this is like the dawn of D-Day, where a number of clubs will have their say. And the point I made on social media last night is I sat through a presentation with IMG's Vice President of their sporting portfolio, Matt Dwyer, around about 2 years ago now, when the concept of IMG was first voted in and announced. And this wasn't me personally attacking any clubs individually, but the harsh reality is, he said, if clubs do not spend the full salary cap, they will be removed by clubs who do want to spend the salary cap. What you've currently got in Super League, which is a broken model, is you have a salary cap and IMG supposedly policing this salary cap ceiling to ensure that the Super League clubs meet the salary cap ceiling, invest in their performances, invest in their sides, to a point whereby the product on the field improves. And you don't end up with what we saw last night, and as we've seen a number of times this season, which is blowout scores. You could argue Wigan, Hulkington Rovers are head and shoulders of the majority of Super League clubs, but the harsh reality is when 5 of those clubs are not spending the salary cap that IMG said they needed to do, the whole thing is partial, it's a broken system, and I think we are going to see change in the air, and that starts on Thursday at Odsal. Well, it's 247.tv, it is Bulls Live, it is West Yorkshire Radio, rugbyleague.com. Those that are joining us on Sunday on the stream, we can focus a little bit more on that meeting on Thursday. An email has to clubs with a plan of action and what they're going to discuss and how that meeting looks and feels. And as always, I firmly believe, I've been like this for a number of years now, there is a lot of interest from supporters who thoroughly deserve to know what clubs are thinking, what clubs are saying. The clubs voted, giving Nigel Wood and the implementation committee a very powerful mandate. It was 74% all told, and the implementation committee will be acting on behalf of the clubs, of what the clubs want.
I don't know where Warrington go, because everyone blamed Darryl Powell a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
Darryl Powell,
this is the really interesting one.
and Darryl Powell gets sacked. Sam Burgess comes in. Are they any better off than they were under Darryl Powell? A couple of places.
They're really unfortunate in terms of injuries. I felt terribly sorry for Aaron Lindop, who clearly was trying his hardest, wanted the ball, wanted to atone for whatever may have happened the week before, which very little of which you can lay at his door, and then does an ACL. So the injuries are one of those teams at the moment that just has a never-ending run of injuries, and that does affect the continuity. But I don't know where Warrington are at the moment.
Like Whitfield.
I don't know what's left of this season for Warrington, because I genuinely can't see them. Well, I can't see them being at Old Trafford. I think there's a little bit of a breakaway now. I think we know we don't know for certain. We've an idea of 4 of the 6.
Yeah.
Because you look at how many games they've got left and who they've got to play, and you'd think that those 4 teams are going to accrue enough points to be in the top 6. So we're talking about teams playing for 2 other top 6 slots, perhaps. That might be going too early, but I don't think that there's a bit of a gap now. So I don't think that's unreasonable. And I just don't know if Warrington can bridge that gap. And if they can't, and if Sam isn't going to be here next year, and he hasn't said that, he's merely said, I had an interview with Perth, and it may be that Perth approached him and he didn't approach Perth. It doesn't matter how it was done. The indications are that he will be pursuing his coaching career elsewhere. What do you do about that if you're Warrington?
You make plans now for who you're going to bring in.
But do you make the change now?
If the person who... And again, if Trent Robinson was available, you say yes.
Well, there is somebody available, though, isn't there, who wasn't available 3 weeks ago. And I'm not saying that person is the fit that Warrington might be looking for, but do you wait around until the inevitable happens, do you hasten the inevitable because the club needs to start?
So are we saying that Warrington need to appoint Steve McNamara before Leeds do?
Not necessarily before Leeds do.
But that might be what people would...
But I'm not. I wouldn't be... You know, we never want a coach to be sacked. No. There's two things that we stand by on this programme. One is it's never a referee's fault. No. Because, yes, they'll make mistakes, but there's so much wrong with the way referees are treated at the moment that if we focus solely on them, then you're missing the point. Referees have always made mistakes. They're not making any more or any less than in previous eras. They're working under far more restrictive conditions in that every game is televised to the nth degree. If you genuinely think that referees are biased, then you probably shouldn't be watching sport. So we've never... We'll talk about if we think a decision is wrong, but we would never say it's a referee's fault. If a referee makes one mistake in a game, there's 79 other minutes for the team.
Ryan Hall's fault.
Yeah.
Ryan Hall.
There were 4 penalties on Saturday at Headingley, none in the second half. Chris Kendall will not get the credit for it. But he should, because he contributed to a free-flowing second half. So we don't criticise referees per se.
No.
And the other thing is we don't want coaches to be sacked. No. We've never been on a bandwagon that says, he's got to go. So I'm not saying, and I wouldn't, especially if he's living round here, Sam needs to go. I just think Warrington have a really, really interesting decision as to how they view the remainder of this season. And it would be interesting to know from our avid Warrington friends here what they think.
We're scared of Sam Burgess, that's what we're just admitting there.
Well, no, he's got an aura about him. He came in the press conference after the game on Saturday. He didn't say very much, but you knew Sam Burgess was in the room. He was going to say what he wanted, not necessarily what the journalists wanted.
Sam, did you play well?
Yeah. What did you think?
Yeah. The issue at Warrington, then, if it isn't the players per se,
no,
some of the players are better than others. Some they probably shouldn't have signed, but that's opinion. I think the coach is the coach. Who makes all the decisions?
This leads us into the score of their women's team.
Yeah, it's lovely how they've played Leeds in these 4 games.
I think it's about what do they want to be as a club. And so much focus, I think, has been put on the men's running team and the pressure of we need to get over 70 years of hurt, that has been to the detriment of building a club. So the team ran out at Headingley on the Sunday wearing the Warrington colours with the Wolves badge and got beaten by in a Super League encounter, not against a promoted team. And the result, if I'm a senior manager at Warrington, is embarrassing. It's the same with the wheelchair team. They were a Super League entity, they're not now. They possibly should be in next year. They're not winning enough games in the divisional to assume that unless they have a complete overhaul of players that they're going to be a force to be reckoned with anywhere in the near future. I don't know what Warrington want to be and how they see the one club mentality that Wigan have fostered, that Leeds operate, that I think Hull are starting really to get the hang of, which embraces everything about the club, the heritage, everything. I'm just not sure Warrington have got it.
Sheffield.
Sheffield are very good at that.
Leeds.
York.
Leeds Rhinos women 110, Warrington Wolves women 0.
Yeah.
But even more important than that, before in the academy game, Leeds Rhinos under 19s, is that the academy level? 74, Warrington 4.
Yeah.
Now,
the one thing to bear in mind about that is the amount of time that Leeds have put into developing players, which, yes, their first team may not have got to Wembley this year, may not even make the grand final, but clearly there is a reservoir of talent that they're... Ellie Seal, is it Ellie? Lily Seal. Played full-back for Leeds Academy women last. She was the girl that when we went to Wembley a few years ago was player of the match. And got something like 4 tries in the Year 7 game. She played fullback. Yes, they got 5 tries. That's a talent they've nurtured for probably 5 years, 6 years. Now, I don't see Warrington doing it. I'm not going to decry the efforts of any player, women's player that played for Warrington yesterday.
There's no point. There's no point.
But they've changed the coach. I don't think they're not one of the clubs that have announced they're even paying expenses, are they? Whatever that might mean. They tend to play the women's games at Victoria Park. It's not inclusive.
Couldn't find any news on Twitter yesterday about the team. And I know Leeds have got that nonsense thing of posting on some other social media.
We are right. Yeah, but the other thing about that game, and this isn't just knocking Warrington, is that match was on TalkSport 2. That's a national broadcaster who are broadcasting more women's games than anyone else. They've been a leading light in putting on women's matches, and they're not just covering the top 4 playing each other. I didn't listen to the coverage, obviously, but how embarrassing must that be to go back to the station commander and go, we spent 2 hours broadcasting a game that finished 110-0 between 2 Super League teams. Now, I know that the world football nonsense that's going on at the moment, somebody's just won 10-0 against an amateur team, and that might be sort of comparable, but we have to be better in what we're giving them to broadcast, and Warrington have to be better as a club.
Carl, how are you? Thanks for joining us.
Absolute pleasure, Steve. You've doorstopped me there, haven't you, mate? Have you got a minute and put a mic in front of me? So, you caught me off guard there, but it's all good.
Well, we may be going off into the ether with no one listening because the technology's all new, so we'll see what happens. It's down to your Wi-Fi.
Right, okay. I'll chat to the operations team after this.
So, Carl, how would you sum up where the club sits, at this moment? It's going to be a big challenge to make the playoffs now, isn't it? How would you sum up where you sit?
Yeah, look, we've not, over the course of the season so far, we've not been consistent enough, and I think the coach will, admit that as well. I think there's been on occasions, on the big occasions when we've rose to the challenge, but I think it's really important to, and I'm not, coming up with excuses here, but it's just a fact, is the injuries that we've had, Steve, is incredible. We've had 2 fractured cheekbones, we've had 3 ACLs, which is unheard of. Williams, England captain, got a syndesmosis. Danny Walker, the England 9, had an MCL, alongside Match Ashton, the England winger, have an ACL, so we've been absolute decimated with injuries. So looking at it in the round, considering all things, I think we've performed pretty well. Fantastic trip to Wembley. Good performance at Wembley. We probably should have posted a few more points on the board with all the territory in possession. We went in there as significant underdogs, and we almost had our hands on that trophy, but we didn't. But do you know what? We're going to be better for going through this adversity with the young players that are coming in. They're going to be better for the experience. It's testing our squad strength. But we know we need to improve, and that starts today against Huddersfield, who had a great performance last week against Wigan.
Last time I was here, I asked Sam at the press conference about Mal Meninga getting the Perth Bears job, and he said that he'd applied for it and it was an interesting experience for him. Does that have any impact on you or the club as far as coaching is concerned? I guess you kind of knew that if a big opportunity came in Australia, he'd consider it. So does that change anything?
No, Luke, we were totally relaxed about that, Steve. Now, Luke, Sam's a man of his word, and Sam's contracted here to the end of 2026. So irrespective if he was going to get the Perth job or not, he was going to be here to the end of 2026. He's also made it clear from day one that he has got appetite and ambition to go back in the NRL. Australia is is where he classes home. Admittedly, Perth some distance from Sydney, but that's where he classes home. So we was fully aware of the situation. But it does mean, Steve, if he goes back and gets a job in the NRL, it means that he's done a good job for ourselves here. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we were totally relaxed about that. He kept us updated on the situation. So yeah, we fully understood that, and so yeah, we're cool with that.
Is it too early to talk about extending him, or is that something for next year?
Oh, that's something for next year. We've already extended him once. We've got an additional 12 months. He signed originally a 2-year deal, so I got extended to 26. But yeah, we'll review the situation next year. We'll have those discussions and we'll take it there. But yeah, we're not in a rush at the moment to extend it at the moment, and neither is he.
Now, there's a lot happening off the field, as I whispered to you before we went on air, and there's a big meeting next month about various proposals for the new RFL administration and possible changes to competition structure, merging the bottom 2 divisions, the top division going to 14, and it has been reported in the last 24 hours that all clubs would be meeting this Thursday at Odsal to have a discussion ahead of the big meeting next month. Is that happening?
As far as I'm aware, no. So whether that's just Championship and League One club, Steve, possibly.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I'm not aware of that, mate. No.
So what's Warrington's position on a 14-team Super League? And do you have any clue as to how that might be financed?
That's a good question in terms of how that would be financed. So, look, we would be open to a 14-team competition. I think the removal of loop games, playing everyone between home and away in a potential magic, I think is probably the best solution. We agree with that. But the key thing is, and you've just raised it there, is how is this going to be financed? I mean, the central distributions are at its lowest that it's ever been. For a number of years. I mean, down to now 1.3 million. The introduction of 2 further clubs, I'm not sure. How that will be financed? If there is a formula, if there a way that we can, or the game can find a way to fund these 2 teams? Do they come in on the same distributions or not? I don't know. But obviously that has to be considered, has to be thought through before we bring in additional teams, before we raise it from 12 to 14. But look, what I will say, Steve, and I've mentioned this a few times, look, whether you have 10 teams, whether we have 12 teams, whether we have 14, whether we have 16, the importance is how we promote and market this sport. Do you know what I mean? So we could go to 14 teams. Is that going to solve our problems? No. Okay? So yes, we have to consider it. I totally get that. But it's not a priority. The priority is how we're going to promote this game and market in the right way and how it should be. Once we get that right, we can have 12 teams, we can have 10 teams, we can have 14 teams. So, yes, we have to consider it, but for me, that's not a priority.
So is NRL Europe a factor in these conversations taking place next month, or is that another 12 months down the track to your mind?
Look, in terms of timelines, I can't comment on that. I'm not sure. I'm not aware of that. Obviously, there's been reports that they are interested in Super League. Discussions in Vegas with Peter and Andrew, that there is some appetite there. How far that along, I'm not sure. I can't comment. When is that set to take place? Again, I'm not sure on that. But I think it does make sense, certainly to explore it. Again, the devil's got to be the details, Steve. What does it actually look like? What does it mean for Super League? What does it mean for the NRL? Now, working with the NRL on the Vegas project and the Vegas game was absolutely fantastic. Great to work with. Far well resourced than the game over here. But I think also they was impressed in terms of what ourselves and Wigan brought to the table as well. So, look, I think it definitely makes interest to certainly have a look at it, but the devil's going to be in the detail. What does it actually mean for the Super League? What does it actually mean for the NRL? But yes, we would certainly be up to have those discussions.
How do you vote on proposals that are put to you by the new committee at the RFL without knowing what the alternatives are? Because obviously the NRL would be an alternative. So you need all the cards need to be on the table for you to make an informed vote, doesn't it?
Yeah. So it depends what the proposals are, and depends what you're voting for. So, irrespective if the NRL come to the table or not, we need to get our own house in order. Do you know what I mean? So let's say the NRL thing doesn't come through, or those discussions don't happen, and they don't materialise for one thing or another. We need to change how we promote, how we dress, how we sell ourselves. So whether the NRL come on board or not, there's things that need to improve and need to be discussed and need to be voted on. Right.
Okay, one more thing, Karl, thanks for joining us. Before kick-off, I had queued up a grab from 40-20, Phil Kaplan and Richard Shaw-Wright from Monday night. I don't know if you heard it, but they talked a little bit about the club and its identity. They talked about the big score that the women's team conceded last week. They talked about maybe a confused image between Wolves and Wire and this sort of stuff. Firstly, the women's. Obviously, no one likes to see those sort of scores. So what does the future hold for the women's team, and how do you kind of build that up?
Yeah, so look, I think with the women's team, Luke, being honest, we've probably tried to run before we could walk here. In all honesty, they probably need to drop down the division. Now the Super League is very competitive. Our women's team is still run by the foundation, with club support, of course. But I think we just tried to accelerate that too quickly. Now we've actually been discussing having a 4 or 5 year strategy here to look to improve the women's team and improve the women's game, because it's such an important part of the club. I mean, the girls section is absolutely tremendous. The girls' numbers are swelling in the town, but at the top level we're not good enough at the moment to be in Super League. So in all honesty, that needs to be looked at, and maybe dropping down the division is probably the right thing to do. And in terms of your image thing, just explain that a little bit more, because I'm quite interested in that.
They were saying...
Who's this?
This is on the 40-20, which I was going to play before kickoff because I had it queued up. But they were talking about, it's a confused image. Are they the Wolves or are they the Wire? And it's kind of like, they were just questioning the identity and marketing of the club, So... I guess. Have you got?
Yeah, I'd like to listen to that, because I'd like to challenge him on that. So, in terms of the Wire, we're really proud of our history and the Wire, and that's part of the town, and that'll appeal to an older audience. We want to appeal to. Steve, would you say we want to appeal? Do we want to appeal to a younger audience? Is that important?
I would say so. Yes.
Okay. So, what is more appealing? Looking back, or embracing a new identity, which is more sort of Wolves, is more attractive to a younger audience? What would you say is more attractive?
I think from listening to the show on Monday night, their point is you've got to decide one or the other and not have a bet each way. I think that was their point.
As a sport, do you think we could be guilty of looking back too much?
In this, yes.
Okay.
Yes, in this country, definitely.
So the brand positioning then has to be looking forward, has to be leaning into the Wolves.
Yeah.
But really important that we do not forget our past and forget our heritage in terms of the Wire. So yeah, I'd like to see that podcast. I'd like to challenge them on that and to get an understanding on what they was discussing, because look, we try to position ourselves, I suppose, different to a lot of traditional rugby league clubs with a lot of the initiatives that we're going on. So you mentioned in the 40-20, so we've got a 40-20 lounge that turns into a nightclub after the game, and if we kick a 40-20, it's free shots for everyone. So make sure you get in there. So that's the kind of stuff that we're doing to promote the sport, like the things such as the Luke Little Stadium, or all those kind of activations that gets out the rugby league bubble. But again, we need to understand and not forget our history. We're so proud of that. And look, I'm a rugby league anorak, I'm a rugby league historian, so I know all about that and the importance of that. But we've got to look forward, and that's what, do you know what I mean? We really push ourselves, the moniker as a Wolves, but again, not forgetting our roots as the Wire.
Karl, it's really nice of you to come and join us at such short notice. By the way, I've got to tell the listeners it started to rain, so we'll make you an analyst. What impact's that going to have on this match, Karl?
Look, I expect us to bounce back from last week. Last week was disappointing, but I understand the reasons of last week. Just the emotional energy, burnt out after the Wembley experience and the heartache and the emotional drain off the back of that, and Leeds playing fantastically well at the moment. But yeah, I think these conditions can make the ball a little bit more slippery, more greasy. We saw that in the reserve games prior to this. But look, if we play to our potential, Huddersfield play to their potential, we should be winning this game. And look, if we want to get in the playoffs and make a serious challenge, we have to be winning these kind of games.
You can sit here anytime you want, Karl.
Pleasure, mate. Pleasure.
You get a free can of Coke.
That's it, mate. Coke Zero, though. Coke Zero.
Thanks, Karl.
Cheers.